welcome and welcome back. My name is Mobile Zakwe, and this is edition 14 of the November Bible Study Accountability Series. Yeah, so we'll just get into it. Just so I mentioned, yeah, there might be noises outside because it's daytime and it's the hood, It's the hood. So it won't be beds. It might be a hooter. It might be people talking. Some are loud. Some are probably inappropriate, but yeah. We're just gonna get straight into the word. It's the book of Acts. Alright then, so we've prayed over the word. Now let's get to eat it up. Now it happened in Iconium that they went together to the synagogue of the Jews, and so spoke that a great multitude, both of the Jews and of the Greek, believed. But the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and poisoned their minds against the brethren. Therefore they stayed there a long time, speaking boldly in the Lord, who was bearing witness to the word of his grace, granting signs and wonders to be done by their hands. But the multitude of the city was divided, part sided with the Jews and part with the apostles. And when a violent attempt was made by both the Gentiles and Jews with their rulers to abuse and stone them, they became aware of it and fled to Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia, and to the surrounding region, and they were preaching the gospel there. Point is, they're always preaching the gospel. And in Syria, a certain man without strength in his feet was sitting, a cripple from his mother's womb who had never walked. This man heard Paul speaking. Paul, observing him intently and seeing that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, "Stand up straight on your feet and lead." And he leaped and walked. Now, when the people saw what Paul had done, they raised their voices, saying in the Lycaonian language, "The gods have come down to us in the likeness of man." And Barnabas they called Zeus, and Paul Hermes, because he was the chief speaker. So just a quick reminder, this Paul that we all know today as Christians, and he's written many great letters to Christians, different churches, was first named Saul, and his name got changed to Paul. Before he changed to be Paul, he was a man that was basically against the apostles, and he had his own encounter with Jesus. He got blind for 3 days and had a vision that you were going to be healed by a man named Ananias. And so Ananias went and laid his hands on Saul at the time, and when he opened his eyes, he got transformed and his name became Paul. So now he's beginning work to heal himself. He's beginning work and he's transforming people. He's speaking great things to people and unto their lives as well. So he's starting to do a great deal in for the followers of Christ, Christians. Then it says, "Then the priest of Zeus, whose temple was in front of their city, brought oxen and garlands to the gates, intending to sacrifice with the multitudes. But when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard this, they tore their clothes and ran in among the multitude, crying out and saying, 'Men, why are you doing these things? We also are men with the same nature as you, and preach to you that you should turn from these useless things to the living God, who made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all things that are in them.'" Okay, so because these men had never had an experience of a God they can't see before, they perceived that their gods are presenting themselves in form of um, Paul and Barnabas. And so Barnabas and Paul were just flabbergasted by that, and they could not take that much of honor or respect, which was really misunderstood. Who in bygone generations allowed all nations to walk in their own ways. Nevertheless, he did not leave himself without witness, in that he did good, gave us rain from heaven in fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness. And with these sayings, they could scarcely restrain the multitude from sacrificing to them. So the multitude wanted to sacrifice to them because, it's what they're used to. It's what they used to burn incense, to burn a lamp in front of them, and all of that. So yeah. Then Jews from Antioch and Iconium came there, and having persuaded the multitudes, they stoned Paul and dragged him into the city, supposing him to be dead. However, when the disciples gathered around him, he rose up and went into the city, and the next day he departed with Barnabas to Derbe. And when they had preached the gospel to that city and made many disciples, they returned to Lystra, Iconium, and Antioch, strengthening the souls of the disciples, exhorting them to continue in the faith, and saying, "We must, through many tribulations, enter the kingdom of God." We must, through many tribulations, enter the kingdom of God. This means, oof, okay, this is hard to accept even for me as I read it. Yeah. So when they appointed elders in every church and prayed with fasting, they commended them to the Lord in whom they had believed. And after they had passed through Phoenicia, they came to Pamphylia. Now when they had preached the word in Perga, they went down to Atalia from there and sailed to Antioch, where rather they had been commanded to the grace of God for the work which they had completed. Now when they had come and gathered the church together, they reported all that God had done with them, and that he had opened the door of faith to the Gentiles. So they stayed there a long time with the disciples. I think my takeaway has to be, we must, through many tribulations, enter the kingdom of God. At the end of the day, we must enter the kingdom of God. Through these tribulations that we're going through on earth, we must enter the kingdom of God. When you read in the book of Psalms, some of the prayers that are on there, they emphasizing how God should not embarrass us, and that's David now writing. And even today, though there's many people in our country, South Africa, that are very accepting and do believe in God, there's others that don't, and it's just so sad that we have to constantly be defending or being questioned for following Christ when we know what he's done for us. We know how far he's gotten us. We know the things that he's done for us. So yeah, with that said, thank you so much for watching up to this point. It's a lot. It was a very brief video. Yeah, it's a short chapter. It's Acts 14. Thank you for watching to this point. See you on the next one.